This is the SunBelt podcast, part of the Believe Network.
Hosts the Dusty Thibodeau of Warhawk Report, Jeremy Harper of Howlraiser, and Shane Metlin of the Daily News Record.
I think it's potentially a very good week for the SunBelt.
But I'm just kind of going off on a random rant. It's just frustrating. It's Welcome in, guys. There's still no SunBelt Conference football, but we're down to the finals of the CFP playoff, where it will be the Ohio State and the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame.
I've never heard of one of those programs.
Shane, are you surprised by that final?
Maybe a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I guess I may be one of those guys who wrote off Notre Dame early in the season because they had, the loss to was it Northern Illinois. You can't even remember anymore. Like
Northern Illinois, and by proxy,
the middle of the pack.
Illinois is the national champion. That's how I'm looking at it.
And when they didn't end up being, one of the top teams in the MAC, I kind of maybe thought, Notre Dame plays a largely ACC schedule. The ACC is not that great.
No,
I didn't necessarily expect this from Notre Dame, but I'm kind of liking it because of, like you said, like we can, give the vicarious national championship to a G5 program.
That's right.
So are y'all watching the bowl games right now?
No. I have watched a little bit. I've watched a little bit.
Well, I'm not really watching the bowl games, but I am watching these all-star games that have usually the title of bowls.
Yeah.
Obviously, the big one being the Senior Bowl coming up in Mobile.
By Reese's Pieces. Yeah.
God, that makes me hungry, Jeremy. We have the East-West Shrine Bowl coming up.
Got that one too.
But more importantly, and near and dear to my heart, the SunBelt, the Warhawks were represented at the Hula Bowl, the 79th Hula Bowl. There were 4 from the SunBelt, but one of us, a good old Warhawk, and Car'lin Vigers was there, and he joins us on the Bet Online hotline. Car'lin, welcome into the show.
How y'all doing? Glad to be here.
So, Car'lin, you got the call. You got the trip to Orlando. Tell us about the Hula Bowl. What was that experience kind of like? What was the regiment like as you went down there to start the audition for NFL scouts?
The Hula Bowl was a great experience, just out there showcasing my talent in front of, all 32 scouts was great. It was a great feeling. It was a great atmosphere, just being out there to being able to compete and put on for the SunBelt and my alumni, the Warhawks.
Everybody had their helmet with all the different decals on it. Did you ruin a perfectly good Warhawk helmet down there, or did you keep it in pristine condition?
I actually put a couple of decals on, but I mainly put the Memphis on my back plate, just because, my former player that played at ULM with me, AJ Watts, so I was representing him out there.
You talked about, you get to go in front of all 32 teams in this type of deal. I mean, I know you probably have, scouts coming through practices different times during the year. You get them at games and stuff, but what's it mean to you to be able to be in front of every single team and probably, CFL and other places too, all at once, and really get that opportunity to show what you can do?
It really meant a lot, just being able to show them that, it doesn't matter the conference that I'm going against, I'm able to compete with anyone, play with anyone, play versus anyone, and, play at a high level and being able to just make plays around the ball like I'm always doing, even in the SunBelt.
So let me ask you this about the Hula Bowl. You got a bunch of guys around you, and they're all a bunch of alpha males, guys that are at the very peak of their prowess, guys that maybe played against each other. Is it a friendly atmosphere, or is it sort of a wary lions kind of atmosphere?
For my experience from this Hula Bowl, it was like, it was a friendly atmosphere, because at the end of the day, everyone got that one goal, just getting to the next level, getting paid, and putting on for their schools at the same time as putting on, showcasing their talents in front of all scouts. So it wasn't nobody just just trying to push around, everybody was it was really all in one. Everybody just trying to get their name out there.
So, Car'lin, what you're saying is there were no grade A jerks out there.
Not at all.
Good.
I ain't run across none.
Not even the receivers you had to go head to head with?
Nah, they was on some friendly stuff. You know how receivers are. You know, it's certain dogs out there that's a receiver, but it ain't too many receivers that act like that.
Car'lin, we've asked players this before, and I'm going to ask you, who talks the most trash, wide receivers or defensive backs?
I got to give it to defensive backs, you know, because
Because are you one of the guys that talk trash?
I talk trash, definitely, you know, just, you know, because I know I'm going to back it up. And at the same time, some of the receivers, you know, some receivers back down from a challenge most of the time, you know. Not all of them want to hand fight with you the whole every play, you know, stuff like that. Not most of them aggressive. Most of them just trying to be finesse out there. So
Car'lin, what you're saying is if I'm reading this right, the trash talk isn't just about, you know, exchanging words. There's some strategy involved.
definitely strategy involved, you know, trying to get under your skin, you know, trying to get you out your game if I could, stuff like that.
3 years on the Bayou there, Car'lin. Never quite able to turn the corner, but that program is so close to turning it. What was your kind of Sports Center highlight? What was your favorite moment there playing at ULM?
My favorite moment was, you know, when Coach Brian Vincent came in, definitely, you know, because that I felt like that was the type of coach that I needed to be under, especially with my last year in the at ULM. So with him coming around, you know, that highlighted a lot because his mindset is kind of like mine, you know, toughness, you know, being a tough person mentally, physically, you know, and just being a hard worker.
Car'lin, 5 wins on the season. What was the best one?
I would say the JMU game, definitely.
Because it's
that,
always
Metlin.
fun to beat those guys.
It was a lot of hype around that game, you know, them coming in talking about what they gonna do to us, even them posting on their, you know, social medias on a Warhawk plane, like that was disrespectful.
So, with that said, there, Car'lin, you got to showcase your skills at the D1 level there at ULM, but you started off in the good old Jayhawk League. It's something that Metlin's definitely familiar with when you were at Independence. How did that kind of grind at junior college really prepare you for playing D1 and then hopefully at the next level as well?
I would start off saying, you know, it helped me with my mental, you know, being tough because every day you competing. It's like it's a lot of guys out there on the JUCO level that was talented, you know, NFL talent at that. Just like going out there every day competing because you know your spot could be taken the same day, the next day, you know. So you always gotta, you know, stay focused, you know, can't have a bad day going to JUCO. You can't have a bad day. So like just helping me be consistent. JUCO helped me be consistent daily on and off the field, you know, and just keeping a sharp mind, you know, that my job could be taken any day if I come out stepping wrong, just doing anything wrong. From being from on the field, from in the film room, you know, just anything could get your spot taken in JUCO. So that helped me a lot, you know, getting to the next level. That made me work harder. JUCO helped me work harder, you know, and understand like the real grind behind football.
You talked about the trash talk earlier. So was there more trash talk in the Jayhawk conference or in the Sun Belt? Because I think it gets a little rough and rowdy out there, right?
Definitely. I say it was more trash talking, you know, in the Sun Belt Conference, you know, because everybody feel like they their guy, that guy on their team. So it's like, you know, and then feeling like they over you, especially whenever, you know, being a Warhawk, you know, because we ain't had the best seasons here and there. So it was like they felt like they was over you just off of that.
So, Car'lin, we talked about some of the best wins that came this season, which was a great season, 5-0 season, much better than what the prognosticators had predicted was going to happen. What was the
And you,
toughest,
Jeremy.
what was the toughest loss?
I would have to say our toughest loss this season had to be the Marshall game. It was
Oh,
Marshall because we were supposed to win that game for sure. And like just how it happened, you know, losing in the fourth quarter, it's tough, you know, being up the whole game, you know, and just like and that just that one play, you know, just one play that happened, you know, set us like and that was supposed to be our sixth win. That was definitely supposed to be our sixth win. So that was the toughest for sure.
so you were talking about how much you enjoyed Coach Bryant coming into play, and what he brought to the table. What was the biggest change in the team that made it to where you can get those 5 wins and obviously take that big leap?
One, it was the work we put in off seasons, Also him having a structure, him coming in with a structure and a culture of his own, that made it a lot easier for us during the season. Like just him, speaking on everything, what we gonna do when the season come around, and we did, even though we didn't get the 6th win like we always talked about. It was just him coming in with a structure and him being organized, even with the guys he brought in, the coaching staff he brought in, like that was a big help.
All right, now be real with us, Car'lin. How badly did he want to beat UAB?
Bad. Bad. Like, bad.
Yeah, and the way he beat UAB with you guys was pretty unmerciful, that's for sure.
Like the stuff the stuff we heard, like we was a JUCO team. That what UAB was telling us. We was a JUCO team, so we took that. that was disrespectful. So, and with Coach V already, being there, coaching there, and also our DC Coach Hill, him and the head coach at UAB, didn't always see eye to eye. So from an offensive standpoint and a defensive standpoint, we wanted to beat the shit out of them.
Nice, love it.
That was the word on the street as well. That even going into the season, it doesn't matter if we're 1-11, as long as that one win is UAB, we don't care. but just to stroke Jeremy's ego, let me ask you this:
Stop.
It's been an eternity and then some since ULM beat Arkansas State. Is that something that y'all are even conscious about?
We was conscious about it, definitely, because Coach V was like, he made that a point. Like, we didn't beat these guys in years. Forget that. It's time for something to change,
I know. I kind of like the way it is, though, Car'lin. I have to admit it. I know it comes at your expense. But for me, a citizen of Arkansas State, I've enjoyed, was it now, Thibs, 13 years?
How do 14? I kick you out of this deal?
Yeah.
So, Car'lin, your lasting legacy, what's the biggest thing that you want people, when they go back, they look at the honorable mention SunBelt Conference, Car'lin Vigers, what's the biggest thing that you want them to remember about you and your play in the SunBelt and at ULM?
What I want them to remember is, me giving it my all every season there, playing hard, playing my heart out, trying to help change the program. Even though we came up short my last season, I stuck it out just to try to, make a change for ULM, for it to be a better program, which is going to be. I know it for a fact in the future. That's something that I want everybody to remember about me.
That's all I got for you there, Car'lin. We greatly appreciate it and wish you the luck. We're ready to see the next SunBelt Conference draftee when your name's called out, headed into the league.
Yes, sir. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you, Car'lin.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So we got the good preview of what it was like in football, what it was like to go to an all-star game.
But not only that, Thibs, what an answer. What do you want your legacy at ULM to be about? It wasn't, I want everybody to remember me for my plays on the field or how I was the best CB out there. It was I want to elevate the program and be the one that sort of spearheaded the rise of the Warhawks. That was really cool.
Yeah, and guys like that are going to be people's favorite players for a long time. Like, I mean, Thibs, you can speak to this. I mean, people at ULM are going to remember this team, even though they're not the one that went to a bowl game. But if ULM goes to a couple bowl games over the next few years, those teams are going to get a lot of hype. But people are going to remember this team kind of changing the culture. And, guys like Car'lin are going to be people's favorite players for a long time because of what they did to elevate things there.
No doubt. I mean, not to put Car'lin down in the least bit, but it's definitely going to be. We had a great running back there in Ahmad Hardy, but then we had a great defense that was headlined by him, Wydett Williams, and just going on and on and on down the list. But that's definitely the team that will be putting ULM on the map to say, here's where we started the rise coming back up. The awkward silence. Why is there always this awkward silence there, Jeremy?
I felt like there needed to be a segue there, Thibs. I thought there was going to be kind of a segue. You know, as a professional podcaster, I thought you'd be able to do this. But
well, here's your professional segue, Jeremy. I will just drop it in the grease just for you and no one else.
Okay. All right.
With the debut of our other spinoff show of Netlin.
Oh yeah, Netlin! What a great show!
You and Dr. Netlin were able to kind of dig deep into the net ratings, where we were in SunBelt Conference basketball.
Yeah.
And I can't contribute anything to it because I pull up the net ratings.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there's 364 teams. I think ULM is probably in the 370s.
Yeah, and deservedly so after that horrendous loss to the Cajuns last night. Come on, Thibs, what's happening?
3 points covers according to Bet Online.
That's right. Well, obviously we need somebody to suss out what's going on with SunBelt basketball that's outside the SunBelt universe, right? Somebody who understands, who has their fingers on the pulse of mid-major basketball. And here's the thing. Like for years, I've been watching online Mid-Major Madness. Do you guys follow this guy? Mid-Major Madness?
I do.
Yeah. And here's the thing. They live by a code. And they may not admit this, but the code seems to be this. One, it's just basketball. You never see Mid-Major Madness like dip into, hey, this football game's pretty good. No, you never hear that. Two, it's only about mid-majors. So there's never any discussion of Duke or what the hell's going on with Kentucky or Iowa State. It's only going to be mid-majors. And thirdly, they don't give a shit if a mid-major says, hey, we're not a mid-major. Nick of Mid-Madness, welcome to SunBelt Podcast. We're glad to have you. We could use your help. Figure out how to make the SunBelt a better mid-major basketball conference. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. It's been brutal so far. I mean, like, you guys know watching the SunBelt all these years. South Alabama usually does this towards the end of the season, and they'll get you like, oh, look at them. They're going into the conference tournament red hot. They might win a game or two, but now they did it to start conference play, and then they go and they lose to ODU last night at home. Like, none of this makes any sense. It's the last couple of years. Last year was kind of weird like it too, but like this year Arkansas State, A-State had a good non-conference, lost a couple games they really shouldn't have lost, but they didn't set themselves up to be an at-large team. There's been a couple of years where we've had potentially multiple bids out of the SunBelt. That's definitely not this year.
Yeah, like I think when we just talk about last year, Shane, for instance, James Madison, Appalachian State, and there's even talk of Louisiana for a little bit of being three schools that could sort of maybe touch that surface. It just hasn't happened. What do you think it is, Nick? What are we missing? What's the ingredient?
Winning these games in non-conference. I mean, Arkansas State, they had their chance. I mean, they got the one win. They went and they beat Memphis. They played Alabama close, but then you lose to a Rice team that you have no business losing to.
Yeah, Hofstra's not any.
Hofstra's usually decent, but they're down this year, so that loss will hit. But then, I mean, like JMU's not a bad loss. JMU will probably end up finishing top 6 in the league, but that's a bad loss to open up league play with, and it's going to hit your resume unless you win out the rest of the way. I know they lost to USA the next game, but if you win out the rest of the way, maybe you can forget about that. But at this moment, as we look at bracketology and we go forward, that loss is going to be a detriment, at least for the next month or two, unless they just find a wagon here soon.
I think, to me, almost, you can kind of write off this year. There's going to be a one bid. It's going to be a one bid league. Somebody's going to get in probably as like, a 13 or 14 seed, maybe. And it's just not going to be a good year. The question to me is did the SunBelt lose all its momentum from the last couple of years, or can this kind of be an aberration where they get back to maybe being in the discussion of a two bid, or, at least getting somebody with a good enough seed that they can win a game like they did last year.
Yeah, I mean, they should. JMU, obviously, Shane, you watch them. You're always there. You're covering them. They have everything set up to win for a long time. You have a team like Troy who has a good head coach and Scott Cross. They can continue winning there. Maybe something special can happen there. App State, Dustin Kearns is a great coach. He's been uber successful. If he's able to pick up a 25-26 win season, it's not – this year's is an outlier. It's not going to be like this every single year. You had a team like App State where everyone just transferred out and they're rebuilding. Give it a year or two, they'll be perfectly fine. GMU, first-year head coach. He's figuring out the league. He'll be fine. Arkansas State, if they're able to keep Hodgson down there, they're going to be really good for a really long time. I think it could be a crazy year where another one like ODU. ODU's in first place right now with USA. They're 4-1. They're all freshmen and sophomore. I really, really like that team, and I think they can stick around for quite a bit because Mike Jones is a pretty good coach with pretty good DMV connections that can continue that rolling. There's a lot. Like you got Marshall, you got Corney, who's a first-year head coach. There's a lot of really young head coaches who can really build up. You have a lot of experienced head coaches who have had that success before that are kind of rebuilding this year. I think this year is an outlier. I think that it will get back to the way it used to be. Used to be being last year and the couple years before that, but yeah, this year's an outlier.
Nick, one of the things I've always admired about Mid-Major and following the account and looking at it is that, we got 280 at least mid-majors, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less. I've never done the hard count on that, but you always seem to have, like right now, a pretty good knowledge of what's going on with all these programs. How do you do it?
I don't know. I guess that's just like my weird talent. I mean, I don't mean to like toot my own horn. I hate doing that, but it's been much more difficult the last 2 years because I've joined D1 coaching staffs. I was at Queens last year as a coaching intern. I'm a GA at LaSalle under Fran Dunphy this year. So it's like I got to juggle worrying about my own team, scouting, all that junk, plus every other team in the country. So like when people attack me, I'm kind of like, hey, dude, I'm doing like 18 things at once. But I just love it. I love it. There's only really one thing that trumps my love over watching mid-major basketball, and that's the Steelers. The Steelers played last night, kind of made it tough. They're absolutely horrible, right? I mean, 5 games to lose the season. Russell Wilson is fine, but like they've been pissing me off. But I mean, there's nothing else I would rather do with my time. I've thrown a lot of things to the wayside just to watch mid-major basketball. I wouldn't change it anyway.
So you have the insight as the outsider of what's going on in the SunBelt. My team, the Warhawks.
Oh.
We're lost cause this year. Keith Richard, big whistle, hanging it up at the end of the year. What do you see as the selling points for that job on the outside looking in?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of talk heading into the season that maybe you were tired, and then you retired in the middle of the season. I think that's a spot where you could really hit the JUCO market strong. You can hit the Mississippi JUCO market. You can hit the Florida JUCO market strong. So if you get a coach like, I'm just spitballing here, Northwestern State's head coach, they've had a good start to the season. I can't even think of his name off the top of my head, but he's a JUCO guy. Rick Cabrera, he's a JUCO guy. He was in Florida. They're having success there. It's not an amazing place to really recruit. You pick him up. He's already had success with these JUCO guys. You bring him into the SunBelt. You give him maybe 2-3 years. You can be up there towards the top. I think it's a really, really strong JUCO market down there in the Southeast and just the South in general. And Monroe is the perfect area where you're in between the 2 hottest beds of recruiting in Texas and Florida. So I think you got the recruiting hotbed there. It's a SunBelt job. So if you want to take a step up as a low major head coach, you're in a real strong mid-major league where there's potential to build up a resume and be a multiple bid league. So you have that there. I think those are the 2 biggest things.
You know, the way Nick talks about it, Thibs, it sounds to me like Warhawks basketball could have some hope.
Well, and Nick, that's the other thing. I mean, we've seen it in football. Do you feel that it's a wait of 2 or 3 years, or with the portal and everything else, that you could really see a whole new team and a whole new direction of the program next year, even.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you guys were to go out and get an Auburn assistant or something, you know, all the connections that Auburn assistant has had through recruiting through all the years, he could go in there right away and he could get guys maybe he didn't get to go to Auburn, maybe went somewhere else, and they want to take a little step down to go in there. And you guys could get an absolute stud of a high major player, just didn't get much playing time and be right up there towards the top of the SunBelt right away. It's such a different dynamic in the last couple of years where you're really building up a team with young guys. You can go in pretty much anywhere in the country and you can win right away. The two places I would say where you can't do that or four places are Citadel, VMI, Army, Navy, 5, Air Force.
6. South Alabama proved that you can not build a roster and be successful.
I've for years I've thought they were going to be able to do it. This is the first year where I'm like, I don't think they're going to be able to do it. And then they start 4-0 in league.
Yeah, I mean, I've wondered about this too, because you talked about how they tend to kind of like make a run late in the season. And Richie's he was really kind of early on the whole transfer market thing. And I've always kind of wondered if like it's, you know, you're bringing in new guys all the time. It just takes that long to gel and you're just hoping you make that run in the conference tournament. But him being sort of ahead of the curve when it came to the transfer portal and everything, is this just the year where it's starting to like click where not only did he bring in a brand new team, like almost everybody else in the conference did, so you can win some of these games early and maybe being ahead of the curve has helped him like figure it out a little sooner.
Yeah, I mean, ever since he's really been at USA, he's done that with the transfer portal. So now he's had a lot of experience, a lot more than anyone else of really molding these new teams. And I think it has made a difference. It'll be interesting to see how they respond off that loss against ODU. I mean, at least it was in overtime. They show good fight. But I think definitely he's ahead of the curve there. And I mean, I wasn't expecting this out of USA. I don't know what you guys were thinking. You guys, I highly doubt we were expecting this out of USA too.
To finish 11th.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's special. They're doing something really good down there. They shouldn't have lost that game to Central Michigan to open the season. That was probably why I turned my head against that in the SunBelt MAC challenge. But they've responded pretty strong outside of that Western Illinois loss.
Yeah, they've really pulled a lot of defense up. They play a zone defense that's almost impossible to break. Congratulations to ODU for figuring it out. I did have one question about Mid-Major Madness. Oftentimes I'll sort of watch from a third-party view in bemusement as a program is labeled a mid-major program, and they take some sort of umbrage to that. They're a little insulted by that. I'm not going to name names, Memphis.
Who are you talking about? Yeah.
But there are some programs. Why do you think that there is a push by some teams that they don't want to be referred to as a mid-major? Why not just own it and be part of it?
I don't know. They have a pretty fair response. Hey, we play in an NBA arena. I don't think there's any other mid-major. Maybe like Seattle U, but they play an NHL arena. Duquesne sometimes plays at PPG Paints Arena. They haven't done it in a couple of years, but you could say they do. But they have the money. They're at the top of their league. For a long time, I didn't even want to say the American was mid-major, but it's just so watered down now where it really is. Like Memphis should go unbeaten in that league. There's really no one else. North Texas is really solid, but there's no one else in that league. Maybe UAB. UAB's won 3 straight where they should lose. They should never lose. I mean, they take from everyone else in the league. They have an insane amount of money. They play in an NBA arena. They had the history 15 years ago. That's another thing. 15 years ago, you have Gonzaga, who's consistently in the Sweet 16 every single year. They're not a mid-major because of that. They're consistently strong. Memphis hasn't done anything in the NCAA tournament since John Calipari. So I don't know why you tote that up and why they make it such a big deal. I'm actually planning on seeing them at Temple on Thursday. So this will be the first time I've ever seen Memphis live. And part of me I hate Temple too, but part of me kind of wants to see them lose to Temple.
Well, as a citizen of Arkansas State University, I have similar hatred for Memphis, but that is a team of men. So it will be impressive to watch them play. When they get going, they're really good. When they're out of sorts or they're not interested, then they'll play very well. So are there other teams or that sort of shirk that too? Memphis, I feel like maybe Wichita at some point. I can't
Wichita maybe back in the day, but Utah State's been heavy on that right now. Yeah, they've consistently been really good, which I understand, but they still haven't won an NCAA tournament game. They're having a new coach every year. The Pac-12 is going to be a gray area when it comes back in the next year or two, that if it's a mid-major or not. But they're getting Gonzaga in there. They're getting Washington State, Oregon State back, and then they're getting all the top teams in the Mountain West. So it might be hard to say that that's a mid-major when it comes around, but they're playing a year or two down the line. Just enjoy it while you have it right now, that you're the best team in something.
So, Nick, also, there's all this talk about the NCAA tournament breaking away to where it's essentially the big boys and the mid-majors. Is that going to work? That we would have kind of a top 68 that is that P4 conference, and then the mid-major maybe are in an NIT of top 32?
That would be brutal. I would hate that. The NIT last year did that thing where it was the top two teams that didn't make the NCAA tournament made it, and now Fox Sports is that tournament too. I don't know if the NIT is still doing that, but it's going to just make for like a whole bunch of really bad teams in these tournaments, and no one likes to watch that. In the NCAA tournament, you do that, you have 68 high major teams, or what, you have 56 high major teams and the 10 best mid majors in it. No one likes to watch it. Everyone watches the NCAA tournament for the Cinderella, the underdog. It's a horrible idea. I guess it brings you some money to the venues when you have these high major teams playing there. And, I went to South Carolina. I'm wearing a South Carolina special right now. Like, I saw them in the NCAA tournament last year. We were in Pittsburgh. I was already going to Pittsburgh. There was absolutely no one there. So I really don't know if it will make that much of a difference compared to, say, a Radford who makes it every 6 years. Those people will go out and they'll support their teams. I know it's only one game. It's like next step, you go from the round of 64 to the round of 32. Of course, you're going to get more people there. You have a week to prepare for the round of 6 for the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8. You're going to have even more people there. It's just because these mid-majors don't make it that far that you don't see that. Like, if UMBC would have made it and beat Kansas State a couple years ago, that there would have been all of Baltimore and New York City. It's only a 4-hour drive away. So I think it's just, I hate that. I think it's stupid. I hope they never go that direction. I think that Fox Sports tournament's absolutely idiotic, and anyone that watches that, I pray for them. That it's going to be in Vegas. It's literally just going to be D-Gens. There's going to be like 15 people in the crowd, and no one wants to watch freaking South Carolina play against Minnesota at 8 o'clock Pacific time, so 11 o'clock on a Tuesday in March.
See, this is why I like Mid-Major Madness. Is the Mid-Major Madness attitude? Yeah. That's really cool. So, are there I'm going to say, are there some? I'm not necessarily saying teams that are going to go far in the tournament, but is there a mid-major team right now, maybe two, that are charming you right now? You look at them and go, these guys are really fun to watch.
Yeah, those two big West teams that we saw play last night, UC Irvine, UC San Diego, are really, really fun to watch. UC Irvine is one of the best defenses in the country. They showed it last night. Tyler McGuy, who's on UC San Diego. UC San Diego is a complete opposite, one of the better offenses in the country. They held him to 3 shots. He's been putting up about 18 shots a game. They held him to 3 shots. I think he only made one of them. That UC Irvine defense was really, really good. They went to Lethbridge in Alberta right around Thanksgiving. It was Thanksgiving the 2 days after. And they beat 3 really good teams. They beat Towson, they beat Kent State, and they beat Kennesaw State. There's a good chance they'll play UC San Diego again in a month, that they could run the table. UC San Diego should continue winning. That offense is a really, really high-level offense, and I really, really like watching them. I want to give a shout-out to St. Thomas. They can't make the NCAA tournament this year, but I love watching them. They put up 61 or 63 points in the first half yesterday against South Dakota. They ended up dropping like 118. They're a really, really fun offense. Really, really good team. And also in that league, North Dakota State, they had a tough start to conference play, but they're an awesome offense too. They went into Butler, I believe, and ended up beating Butler. That's a really fun team. Someone that's kind of under the radar that I think could cause problems if they make the NCAA tournament's Merrimack. Deep cut there, because that zone defense is super tough to prepare for. This is their first year in the MAC. They've been close. They've been in the conference championship a couple times in the NEC, but this is their first year in the MAC, and they've started 5-0 in the MAC, and no one can figure it out. They have this guard named Bud Clark from Philadelphia. He drops about 15, 16, 17, 18 points per game. High assist guy. He had 9 assists today. And they're running through everyone. I really, really like that team. Utah State's obviously going to be up there. They're going to come out as the number 1 team in my poll I put out every week tomorrow. I like San Francisco, a little under the radar. Maybe this could be the first year in a while that maybe Gonzaga or St. Mary's doesn't win the WCC tournament, because you have a Washington State team who has an awesome offense. You have an Oregon State team who's kind of flown under the radar and had a really, really strong start this season. You have a Santa Clara team who's consistently been good under Herb Sendek, and they have an NBA guy or two on their team. San Francisco, they have a stud freshman, Tyrone Riley, and a couple really, really veteran guards that could win games in the NCAA tournament. There's just so many teams. There's so many potential stories. That's what I love about mid-major basketball. You never know. There's 280-some teams where you go out and you watch them. You could be watching Abilene Christian against UTRGV one night, and who knows, UTRGV could be making the NCAA tournament, and their 6'11" big man who's tearing it up against BYU or whoever it was. I don't remember who it was in November, could be one of the names of March Madness. And that's just what's awesome. Any given night, there's so many opportunities to watch different teams, so many different options. It's beautiful.
So probably the best invention that's come your way has been ESPN3, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
ESPN Plus. I'm sorry. It used to be ESPN3. Now it's ESPN Plus. Yeah. So you're able to watch a lot of games.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I have Flow Sports, and I watch a lot of the SWAC and MEAC games on YouTube. It's awesome. I know Shane probably has ill will against Flow Sports from when JMU was in the CAA, but it's worth the price for me because I watch it every Thursday.
Yeah. You just mentioned like a couple of teams. I mean, you mentioned, I think, at least 3 teams that have fairly recently made the transition to D1. And I know at least 2 of them have coaches that have been around those programs for a while and made the transition with them. You mentioned, Russ Turner at UC Irvine's been there forever. And then he's had a lot of success. But the big question to me, like kind of thinking about that, is how many of these SunBelt programs where fans are going to want to run their coach out at the end of the season, if they're not quite as good as they think they should be, how many of these programs should have a little more patience and let them build something like some of those other programs have?
Yeah. Well, first I thought you were going with the route that Russ Turner would maybe want to come back home. And I could see that happening. Ryan Odom's going to get a high major job when this cycle comes around. He's going to get maybe Villanova. He'll get maybe UVA. I don't think he has any interest in Virginia Tech, even though he was in principle a couple years ago to get that job coming out of UMBC. But Russ Turner could come home to VCU. I know that's A-10, not SunBelt. I could see him coming back home there. But yeah, you got to build these programs. Let's say what give me a team that's struggling in the SunBelt right now. Georgia State. It's the 3rd season under their new head coach there. This is the first time they've seen maybe a little bit of early season success. Who knows? Let them build it up. Maybe give them a year or 2. See what happens. Marshall, Corny Jackson. I don't really think they're going to stay on this pace where they're 3-2 or whatever they are in league. They'll probably finish under 500 in the SunBelt, and I know that's a pretty impatient fan base. But he's a Marshall alum. He knows how to get guys to come in, buy into the culture. He really loves that place. Obviously, he's been there for a long time. Just don't give up on the guys. I know it's really pretty to see places around the country where you have head coaches come in first year, second year, they bring in these transfer guys and they're immediately successful. I know that's awesome to see, but you still got to build a program. And it's more than just a flash in the pan thing, especially at this level. You don't want a guy to come in a year or 2, have success, and then leave. You want a guy that wants to be there, wants to continue building the program, loves your school, and wants to see long-term success. And that's where I think like Marshall, Corny Jackson will do an awesome job. He'll be there forever. He'll be there forever because he's a Marshall guy. unless there's some other job maybe I don't know about that he loves.
Nick, I think that's all we got for you. If anybody else has a question for Nick, are we good?
I'm good.
I'm great.
Nick, thanks for coming on the show. Really, once again, I love your your Twitter feed, which is now the X feed. Which I did have one last question regarding that. I'm sorry, I kind of said this was going to be the end, but actually, there's one more thing. You built such an audience on Twitter, and then becomes X, and we had noticed here at SunBelt Podcast that some of the organic magic that happened on Twitter doesn't really happen anymore in X. They kind of push that away. Are you thinking about pushing the thrust of your work on another social media site, or you sticking with X?
I'm sticking with X. I'm sticking with Twitter. We have people though from the website that have branched out to Blue Sky, and they've started posting over there. But I'm going to be on Twitter until it dies.
Yeah,
So I'll be on Twitter until it dies. I ain't going anywhere else
until you can find another platform with the same reach. You just gotta stick with it, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I already have such a big following where it's like, why go somewhere else when you have all those people that are going to read your stuff? Or do you know if that's going to translate somewhere else? I like sticking with what I have. I mean, I feel like I have it pretty good right now.
Yeah, and everybody tells you got to migrate. You got to migrate. Yes, but will everybody migrate with you? And that's the hard part. Nick,
Blue butterfly for life.
That's right. Nick, thank you for being on the show. Can you tell us where we can find you?
Yeah, you can follow me over on Twitter at mid_madness and at Lorensen Sports. I appreciate you guys having me on. I know you guys have been interacting with me for a while. I've been reading Shane's stuff about JMU, and I've always seen Jeremy interact with my stuff about A-State for years. Thibs, this is the first time I've run into you. I need some ULM people to really follow. So, no, you run the Warhawk report. So then I have seen you. So I've interacted with all your guys' stuff for years. Love the SunBelt. Wanted to get back up to the way it has been. ODU. Maybe ODU does something crazy this year. I had them third in my preseason poll, and people were questioning it. Look at how they've started. Mike Jones. Mike Jones.
Mike Jones.
Mike who? Mike Jones.
Well, I'll give this for old ODU right now. They seem to be feeling it. The fans are. They seem to be feeling it. I'm beginning to feel their feelings. So it looks like they might be feeling, or they might see something coming up too. Anyway, thanks, Nick, and we'll reach back to you later on, probably around NCAA tournament time, if you don't mind.
I'll be here anytime you want me. I'll hop on.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick. Guys, what a fun, packed show!
Wow. Yeah, we had the Hula Bowl man.
Car'lin Vigers.
Yes, by the way, what a young man. What a great young man. I'm at that age, guys, where I'm 50, and if you're in your 20s, you're just a kid. It's like he's such a good young man. When does that happen when you turn 50? I don't know.
Maybe pictures. You're like Grandpa Simpson when he's shaking his fist and yelling at the cloud because it's looking down upon him.
I feel like I'm about 2 years away from calling a waitress sweetheart. That's how bad my 50s are getting. Like I'm just gonna be that creepy, seedy old man that gets overly familiar with the people at the post office, gets overly familiar with the people at the bank, always chats with the grocery store people. That's where I'm headed. I am headed in that direction. You guys have to stop me. You guys have to keep me young.
You're gonna be like,
I'm pushing you there.
Sweeping your driveway for no reason, just hoping people walk by because you need somebody to talk.
That's right. Oh, hey, I've got some preserves in the kitchen. You want to come in? Yeah. I could see that happening to me. I don't want to. What was it? Where was I? I went somewhere, some store, and I was just acting bizarre the whole time, just cheery and chatting with people and making oddball remarks. I'm like, I look like I'm having some sort of mental problem. They're going to throw me out of here. Anyway, yes, Car'lin Vigers. Good to see him on the show. Good to have Mid-Major Madness on the show. Get a little basketball insight. Shane, he seemed to be a big fan of of the. I don't know if he's a fan of Netland, but he seems to be a big fan of your writing.
He will be a fan of Netland because it's made for guys like him.
That's right. Yeah, maybe we should have him on Netland.
I think I probably will extend that invitation at some point. I do have a guest lined up for this week.
Oh, who's it going to be?
I'll just say ODU fans, tune in.
The reason why I mentioned ODU, when I talked about I'm feeling the fans, it's like there are two fan bases that have begun heating up around me, and that's South Alabama and ODU. Like those guys, Arkansas State lost to USA, and that was fine. I kind of congratulated USA, and there was just a lot of talk about how Arkansas State, they got all these highly visible recruits, but USA, went down deep into the archives of or the annals of basketball playgrounds and found the right guys. And then now ODU is more like, yeah, we knew we were going to be good. We just had to wait. I'm getting a lot of that. Shane, are you feeling that?
Yeah, a little bit, but I mean, I don't know if ODU fans knew they were going to be good. I mean, I think they thought they were optimistic going into the season. I don't know if 2 weeks ago they knew they were going to do this, like if they're being honest with themselves. But I've said it before. That's a really, really good job. ODU should be good at basketball.
Yeah.
And, it's going to be good for the conference if this is their trajectory. And if the non-conference start is a distant memory in 2 years, that's great for the SunBelt, because if it's going to be consistently a 2-bid league, ODU is probably going to be getting one of those bids most years.
So I watched the net, Shane, like net rankings. I don't know why. It's just something to do. The hit that South Alabama took, losing to ODU at home, was as astronomical. They went from 84 to 103.
Yeah. Because ODU, like, such a bad start. And, we called it. We said somebody was going to lose to one of those, like, 350 type teams at some point and ruin their net. And, yeah, I mean, we just got to throw the net and everything out this year. Like, all we can do is hope that the champion of the tournament is capable of making a run, because it's not going to be that year where we talk about, like, we might as well stop talking about the net, even though we will continue to talk about that, especially on Netland. But
here's something else.
It's not the year for it.
You can discuss on Netland is something that Thibs said about Warhawks basketball that I thought was that he nailed right on the head. How many times have we seen the Warhawks either close or ahead at halftime, and then they completely collapse in the second half?
There's no depth.
That's what you said. It was like, okay, well, whatever. And it's every time, ever since you said that, every game has been that way. It's been like, oh, the Warhawks look competitive, and then no.
Yeah. Just remember, that we get to put the feather in the cap that we are the reason ODU is having a great year, because we were one of Mike Jones's first interviews when he took the head coaching job.
I'm trying to remember that interview. I can't even remember.
It's in the full catalog. You just got to go to funbeltpodcast.com.
I guess if I use the search function, I could probably find that, right?
I remember he was looking for a good steak.
So was that?
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
Was that his deal? He was looking for a good steak? All right. All right. So, any other big things going on the SunBelt right now? I see, a little bit of waiver wire portal action going on. A little SunBelt on SunBelt violence. The South Alabama Jags picked up a tight end from Arkansas State, Miller McCrumbie, which I always like. A lot of people hate that. They hate cross-divisional transfers. I kind of like it.
Let me ask you this, though. Mm-hmm. Is Huff eligible for new coach of the year? And are all the players from Marshall eligible for newcomer of the year?
Huh.
Good question.
Wow. Yeah. Thibs, I don't know. We might have to ask Commissioner Gill
Who was the newcomer of the year this year?
It wasn't me.
I don't think there was one for football. Was there?
Is there? I don't know.
I thought there was.
Belt.
It wasn't
Power of the Google.
Jordan McLeod, but I don't know if he was eligible or would have won it because I can't remember who did.
Let's see. Here we go. All right, here we are. I'm looking it up.
Yeah.
I'm going to find out. Well, they have a freshman. They didn't. Oh, here it is. Newcomer. It's Braylon Braxton, the quarterback for Marshall, who is now what? He's the quarterback for Southern Miss, right?
Could he be newcomer of the year 2 years in a row? That's the question.
That would be amazing.
Wow.
I'm lobbying for that now that it's out there. Like,
yeah, I guess Jordan McLeod could have done that.
he could have been. Yeah, he theoretically could have been player of the year, followed by newcomer of the year.
Only in the SunBelt could that possibly happen. But yeah.
The other big announcement, other than obviously we've broken the records, cross-divisional opponents were announced with
That's
ULM hosting ODU.
Yeah.
That's going to be a weird game because you already have the weirdness of Old Dominion, and then they got to travel to the weird bayou.
Yeah.
That may be when the apocalypse happens.
There's going to be some voodoo involved in that game.
There's always voodoo on the bayou. They then go to Coastal Carolina. Your Red Wolves, they will host the Eagle Creek.
Yeah.
And they will travel to Boone.
I don't think we've been to Boone, or it's been a long time.
Some good games that should be, at least based on this year's season. The Raging Cajuns, they will host Marshall and go to James Madison. I think that might be the toughest draw of the cross division.
Wow, somebody doesn't like Coach DeJormo.
It's not delivery, it's DeJormo.
I gotta get that right at some point. Yeah, that's always cool. In fact, it's nice. I like the divisions. I like how you get this sort of mystery box of teams that you get to play, like every year. It's kind of fun. It's like Christmas.
Texas State. That means Shane will be in my neck of the woods as James Madison will head to Wacker Field, and then they will go to Huntington, West Virginia to face Marshall.
Oh, that's a pretty tough slate for Texas State.
I would like to get to that game because I want to.
Because you want to finally meet me in person.
Yeah, and I'd like to venture up to Austin and maybe get some barbecue, maybe check out the Continental Club. So sounds like a great trip to me.
Let's do it, Shane.
Thibs will drink you under the table, Shane. So you got to be careful with him.
He would know that if he ever went to New Orleans.
Yeah, he's never been. He's never seen us.
Maybe we can make it to Pensacola.
That sounds like a plan.
Oh, Pensacola. I might have to make that trip. Yeah, if Arkansas State does well, I might have to go. Yeah.
You can find a beverage or two in Pensacola, I hear.
I know. I've been there before.
Is it all those dumb drinks, though, like sex on the beach and fuzzy nipples and stuff, things that I don't want to say out loud?
There's a place, I think it's called Willie's, that's on the beach.
Yeah.
That has just rows and rows of like frozen drink machines. And I have only ordered beer there. So
those frozen drink machines worry me. I feel like maybe there might be some mold in those machines.
Yeah.
How well do they clean those out every night?
I don't know. You can get a beer with a cap on it. So
yeah.
Everclear and tequila will kill anything, Jeremy.
When I worked at Burger King, we had to clean out the what do you call it? The shake machine every night. I mean, it wasn't like you just did it once a week. I mean, every night you had to clean that spotless. And just sometimes at these bars where they have these old, these ice margarita machines, just makes me nervous. I don't know. Seems like a health inspector coming down waiting to happen.
And on that note, while we're waiting on the health inspector, we can give our plugs, promos, and parting shots. Shane, what do you have?
Already kind of done it, but today I'm simply going to plug Netlin because we got another episode coming up this week. And I was coy before. I believe we're going to have Harry Minium, writer, for ODU sports. Come talk about the surprising start to conference play for the Monarchs. So I'm excited to talk ODU basketball because there's not a better basketball fan base in the SunBelt.
Wow. Wow. And you say that as a guy who covers JMU. Those guys are pretty intense.
Yeah. I mean, as bad as they've been the last couple of years, they still lead the conference in attendance. That tells you a lot about ODU and how much they love their basketball program.
They're fudging the numbers.
I don't think so. I've been there.
You've seen it for yourself.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what do you have?
I don't have much, but there was something that kind of bugged me, and I didn't really know how to address it. But I've been hearing a lot of like joking comments about a commissioner of NCAA sports, and I don't know how serious people are about that. I actually think it would be a good idea, but the name that people keep throwing out is Nick Saban, and I know that people love Nick Saban. He's the architect of those great football teams that have come out of Alabama. He's probably a pretty smart guy. I love him in those Aflac commercials. I love him in that commercial where he's the Airbnb guy. That commercial where he won't let people use his grill and bathroom breaks are only 5 minutes. I love where he is now. He's fine. He's the old man on the set of Game Day. I like him being there. He's a great analyst. Great. I do not want him being in charge of college athletics. He is like, to me, I don't know, maybe the spokesperson or the representative or the proxy of all all Power 5, now Power 4, the way the football is set up now, the way college athletics is now. He is the architect of that. And people say, well, he didn't create the transfer portal. He didn't create the NIL. No, he didn't. But he is somebody who I don't know. That's with the coaching salaries, with the race to build up facilities. He's just part of all that. And we don't really need a guy who was part of all that to run the whole thing. We need a third person, not an insider guy, not a celebrity, but someone who really cares about providing some sort of evenness in sports. And that's what we need. We don't need Saban. I love you, Nick Saban. Do not want to see you commissioner of NCAA.
I don't like Nick Saban.
I don't have anything against him. I don't know the guy.
I'll plug our shows under the SunBelt podcast umbrella there with Believe in the Warhawks, Netlin, and Hellraiser. Great shows, guys. I listened to y'all while stuck in traffic, so maybe I'm just held hostage, but thoroughly enjoy it. I think everyone else that listens to us ramble on for about an hour will enjoy them as well. They're all on the same platforms that SunBelt Podcast is on. They're in the same channel as SunBelt Podcast. They're just bonus episodes. Check them out. Give them a listen. We greatly appreciate it, even if you do have to endure Hellraiser.